Hi, my name is Bob Arwine. Today I'm going to show you a fly that I've developed over the last several years. It's called a Bob HAWG slider. It's very weedless and it really works. So let's go into developing the fly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the hook preparation. As with most flies, they stick better when you're using glue to roughen up the outside edges. So in this case, in this hook, we're going to take a grinding tool, grind off all the black finish. Again, that'll improve the adhesion. Once we do that with the finished hook, it'll be ground, the black will be ground off, as you can see there. So that's how the hook is prepared. The extension here, this is covered with micro chenille, and that also helps adhesion inside the foam head. The foam head, what we'll do is we'll put that into this slot. Again, these heads come ready to go, so you just put that in there, push it in. Make sure your fingers don't get caught into the hook because the hook is really sharp. And this is a dry fit, just to give you an idea of what kind of thing we're looking for afterwards. If you notice, the point is in line with where the legs are going to be. If you can see the point in line here, what that does is that gets the hook to ride down. This acts as a keel for holding the fly down. This is one of the reasons why this fly works so well, is because that's one of the first things that the fish attacks. Okay, so now that we've done the dry fit, I'm going to show you how you would really do the assembly. My preference in making the Bob HAWG slider is to use epoxy. Some people use super glues, but I've had better luck with epoxy because it gives you more time to move the hook assembly around. So we've got this extender. This comes in a kit that you can make it easier to pull it in. You won't poke your fingers as often. Just push that in, put it down, and this, again, the extender gives you the ability to move the wire around. We'll pull this in, being very careful not to stab ourselves. And now, as you see, the hook eye has come out of the front of the fly. We'll move this out of the way. And again, what we're doing is we're making sure that the hook is, the eye is where it's up in the front here. You see this line where it's glued, it's referenced there. And then also that the point of the hook, as I mentioned earlier, the point of the hook is in line with where the legs are going to be. The things that you want to look at is making sure that the hook isn't off to one side or another like this. That'll make it swim funny. You don't want to have that happening. If the hook comes out the back of the foam a little bit, that's okay if you're using epoxy, because you'll fill that area with epoxy. The other thing that I found is a production tire with foam is these two holes that come in the kit drilled, fill those with epoxy. What that does is that ends up having like a epoxy rivet that increases the strength and the adhesion of the hook, so the hook won't rotate. Okay, once you have glued in the hook, the next step is to prepare where you're going to put the eyes. You can use a rotary tool and cut out a socket for an eye. That's my preference when you're doing a three-dimensional eye. That gives the chance for the eye to last longer before the fish pull the eye off. If you're doing a doll eye, it's just a matter of taking an 1/8" drill or a little mill in like this one here and drilling a hole. That will get the eyes prepared. So in this case, what we've got here is a fly that I've prepared up to this point. The eye would be put in with, my preference is epoxy. It just goes in, and it'll really have a tendency to stay. As you can see, it conforms with the body, and it'll stay in much better. The doll eyes will work also, but occasionally they'll hang up on a twig or something like that. But in either case, it works quite well. The thing that you'll also notice here is the back of the fly has been ground away. This increases the gap that the fish will be presented when they're biting down on the hook. A Dremel tool or one of the rotary tools, you can take a grinding wheel and grind that back end of the foam off, and that has been proven over hundreds and hundreds of flies to really improve, whether it's a muskie or a northern pike or a smallmouth, largemouth. It improves your hookup ratio by having that increased gap. Okay, so we've got the hook in, we've got the eyes in. The next step is the legs, and this really gets down to how you'd like to present your fly. This is some material that's available in the kit. It works really, really well, and it lasts a long time. I'm not exactly in favor of using natural materials, feathers, hair, and those sorts of things. They wear out too quickly, and for the type of fishing I do, where a lot of fish are caught every day, natural materials, especially like for northern pike, just don't last long enough. Some of the materials that will last a little bit better, you can get legs that are made out of ultra suede, a suede material. This fly right here has about 130 largemouth on it, and you can see the legs are still in very, very good condition. A few years ago, when I was making flies out with feathers, sometimes the feathers would wear out in 2 or 3 fish. Other things that you can do is you can take silicone sheets and make your own legs. These work quite well. They wobble around real well. There's different colors of these sheets that you can get. I have a number of buddies that do a lot of fishing up in the Northern Territories for fish up there, and there's a lot of lemmings. This tail is made out of leather. Leather will last a long time. This will also work if you color up the fly to look like a mouse. So this could be a mouse tail also. You go to a bait store where they normally will sell gear, bass equipment. There's little kicker legs, frog legs that you can get. Those frog legs work really, really well, and those can be put into the flies also. Now that you've put the fly together, it's time to put a little bit of a clear finish on it. There is a number of different finishes that can be put on to the outside. The finish will protect the felt pin markings that you put on from fading and also make the foam last a long time. When you have a fly that's very, very wind resistant, you have to change a few things in how you do your fly casting. Biggest thing is you need about an 8 to 10 weight fly rod to cast this heavy of a fly, this wind resistant fly. The other things that are important is to have a very heavy weight forward line. Something like a Rio outbound short would work really well, and in wind conditions it really does a superior job of delivering the fly. Things that you have to also consider is you want to have a very heavy tippet. Typically I use a 25 mono tippet for largemouth, smallmouth fishing. Again, if I throw the fly up into some sticks and have to pull a stick off of a tree, the 25 pound will do that most of the time. Some of the things that come into play is that I like to use is a furled leader. Furled leader gives the ability to throw a very heavy fly without the line collapsing and the leader collapsing. When I go northern pike fishing, I like using a furled leader with a titanium tippet. That'll make it so you don't get bit off. One of the things that you have to understand when you're throwing a fly like this is it'll twist and it'll spin. So one way to get rid of that spinning is to use a swivel. This is a swivel that's made out of fluorocarbon. It works very beautifully. It's clear, pretty much clear. Fish can still see it, but it works quite well. It only weighs about 1.6 grains, so a swivel is something that would really help. Casting, me as a casting instructor, I'll tell you what you need to do is when you're doing your back cast and your forward cast, you have to wait a longer period of time after your pause. You have to wait for that fly to get all the way back and unrolled before you come the opposite direction. I would suggest that you use the fewest number of false casts possible. Many times what I do with like an outbound short where the head's about 30 feet long, 35 feet long, is I'll pull the fly out of the water, go into a back cast, and come forward, and that's all I do. It's a matter of trying to have your arm last throughout the day. So practice a few times before you go out, and that will really help your success. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you have a chance to build several of these Bob HAWG sliders. They're very, very good flies, and I'm sure you'll be successful with them. There's a number of points that I brought up during this video, there's going to be a list showing the names of the companies that I've been working with. You should take a look at this list, and the contact information will be on that list. Also, Dan Bland's website is mentioned at the bottom of the list. Very good site to get extremely good information from. Thank you, and tight lines.